The link, share, share, share. This evening we're speaking to Fyzabad MP, Dr. Lakram Bodo, and SWWTU President General Michael Anisette, and so much more in store for you right here on The Observer. Hey, and just to remind you, of course, so much going on, do forgive me. Probiotic XL combines 3 innovative strategies to restore balance to your digestive system. Probiotic XL contains 11 important probiotic strains, protective shield technology, and clearphage that all together make it one of the best probiotics on the market. Probiotic XL promotes digestive health and immunity by supporting growth of good bacteria and neutralizing harmful ones. So please, pick up your bottle of Probiotic XL today. We'll be right back after these messages to kickstart things right off this evening.
When you say TNT's construction boss, then there's only one company, Lacroix Construction Services Limited, specializing in general construction, industrial maintenance, manpower resources, transportation and lifting, and equipment rental, excavators, bulldozers, dump trucks, lighting systems, and everything for your project. We have affordable prices. Call now 267-0000 or 431-0012. Lacroix Construction Services Limited, TNT's construction boss. For all top quality and affordable hardware supplies, no one beats Midland Hardware, located number 97 Eastern Main Road, Arouca. Midland stocks the #1 brands in hand tools, garden tools, water tanks, power washers, generators, water pumps, kitchen and bathroom faucets, along with face basins and toilet sets, blocks, lumber, steel, sand, gravel, and topsoil. Also check out Midland for steel windows and assorted designs of metal curtain rods. Everything for home and business projects. Payments via links, credit cards, online payments, or cash on delivery. WhatsApp 327-7761 or call 646-2144. Open every day from 8 a.m. From foundation to finish, it's all at Midland.
The XL brand delivers quality service.
I would recommend Omega XL to everyone.
Take care of yourself, take care of your health with Omega XL.
If Omega XL works for me, it will work for you.
Over a period of time, I started feeling stronger in my knees where I could add more pressure.
Oh gosh, this place hot. And the AC, then this car not working.
Check Ryan Air. Ryan Air is ranked among the best in TNT for auto air conditioning service. They specialize in repairing and servicing all makes and models of vehicles and heavy equipment. They also stock a wide range of parts. Give them a call at 640-5828 or visit them at number 41 Kane Farm Road, Tacarigua, or email ryanairac@gmail.com. For prompt and efficient service, look no further than Ryan Air.
Limiting chronic inflammation is important for so many conditions that occur.
I had a lot of pain 4 years ago.
I used to have pain in my knees, in my hip.
Taking it for arthritis.
Omega XL saved my life.
Then I started to realize, well, hey, I could use my hands, I don't have any pain.
All in all, I am pleased to say that the Omega XL has worked.
For all
And we're back. Thank you so much, Master Control. Joining us is a gentleman who I think is the second time here on The Observer. Let me say a pleasant good evening to Fyzabad MP, Dr. Lakram Bodo. Pleasant good evening, sir, and welcome.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, sir. Good evening to your listeners on The Observer.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here again with you.
Thank you so much for taking time. Can we hear you clearly? Test one more time. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Are you hearing me?
All right. You were sounding a bit soft there for a minute. So as long as I can hear you, that's good. Hope all is well. I know there's some issues as well as crime affecting so many areas, and Fyzabad is not immune to that. But before we get to that, I want to deal with something that, you know, we went through the pandemic. So much was spoken about the medical care, the practitioners, the nurses, everyone. And yet still there's so many complaints coming from the medical fraternity. No salary increase, still working on 2013 salary and long hours. poor working conditions, no allowance for the same period of time, no security for female doctors when, of course, they work late at night to get to their vehicles. I mean, what is really happening here? I mean, I know that MPAT would be, of course, the body representing medical practitioners, but when can this be straightened out, and why is it taking place?
So I just want to put this whole issue in perspective, Mikey, and let's look at the bigger picture. Now, I mean, the whole performance of the health sector, which means that the care that is administered to the public, really depends on several factors. So at the planning level, the policies and programs of the government. But at the delivery level, you have what I call the PPs. You have the plans, which means the institutions which you have to maintain, that's another story. And then, of course, you have the people, which means the staff, and you have the processes. So we are focusing on the second thing, which is the people. And, of course, we all know doctors and nurses form the backbone of the health sector. And you're quite right, during the pandemic, all of our lives depended on the care administered by the hard-working nurses and the doctors. But the unfortunate reality is that the doctors are still working on the 2015 salaries, because the last time the salaries and terms and conditions were negotiated would have been in 2015. So from that time up to the last 9 years, there has been no further settlement between the government and the doctors. I can speak to this from a more personal point again, because the SWREC would have been the regional health authority, the regional body, which has been assigned by the government to negotiate with MPAT. And I can tell you that when the partnership government limited office in 2015, that negotiation was settled. But it remains an issue. It is really unfortunate and unfair to ask doctors to continue to work under those salaries and those terms and conditions. I believe that negotiations are taking place. From my conversation with the head of MPAT, of course, I'm not at liberty to go into the details.
I understand. But let me interject here. But take in consideration that these individuals came in for high praise for how they handle and manage the pandemic. We were told to come out, to gather, to give them a round of applause and what have you. But at the end of it all, I mean, it's a fact that you have doctors who are unemployed, and some even on short-term contracts. I mean, how much of this that we're seeing here and is playing out has to do with politics rather than appreciating the people who come out there to do their jobs?
Well, again, you hit the nail on the head, because you're quite right. The Minister of Health and the head of the government came out and praised non-citizens, the doctors and nurses. But there's a bigger issue here. Now, it was promised to those doctors who would have put their lives on the line literally during the pandemic to go out and work. Remember, not everybody would have wanted to work during that time. But there were several doctors who came out and worked, and they were promised. And in fact, I must go back to this Simon report, which recommended that some sort of arrangement be made for those doctors, especially the ones who worked during the pandemic. But the government is yet to provide any sort of sustainable employment to these doctors. But you hit the nail on the head again, my teachers. When you talk about short-term contracts, now keep in mind that the state is investing a considerable amount of money in subsidizing the fees and so on to train doctors. So we are training doctors at our universities, both at Mount Hope and elsewhere in the Caribbean. That's considerable structures that's there. And yet we have these doctors, many of them unemployed. I'm informed, again, that some of the vacancies are being filled, but they're being filled very slowly. And this is really an issue to be addressed. Short-term contracts.
I don't know, we're losing you there for a bit.
Is this better, Mikey?
A lot better. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. All right. So I was saying that in terms of the training implications for doctors, it is important that doctors have, even if you are giving them contract employment, it cannot be a 2-week, a 1-month locum. That is of no value to the training of the doctors, and eventually patients will suffer from this. So for the health system to become sustainable and, and beneficial to patients, there has to be better arrangements in place. You cannot continue to give doctors short-term employment in terms of, 1 month and 2 month and 3 month locums and so on. That is not the norm, that is not the practice, and that is not how it should be. And of course, we go back to the issue, of offering those doctors who worked during the pandemic some sort of sustainable employment. That is yet to happen. There is another issue, Mikey. Now, you have, at the RHA level, there are certain category of doctors have the option of being offered permanent employment. These are the specialist medical officers, the so-called consultants, and those are the registrar level, and indeed those who are house officers as well, who choose to take up permanent employment. But I'm also informed that the process for this is not clear and transparent. Apparently, the selection of those for permanent employment sometimes, doesn't appear to be a transparent process. And you spoke about politics, and one wonders whether there is politics at play here. But I'll have more to say about this as the information.
I know you may not want to basically thread along those lines, but I can say it. You simply just have to give me some clarity, and especially people who are locked on. But the reason why I asked about the politics is because even when you go and you check the ongoing wage negotiations for doctors, expected to adjourn, would have been earlier this year, like July, I think, sometime in July. And yet still there's no further information coming out of that. All we're hearing is that it's at a very sensitive stage. One second, let me. Simply trying to get him. All right, 1 second here. All right, I think you shifted or you shifted up.
Please leave me a message, or preferably send me a WhatsApp.
All right, go right ahead.
Text message. Stay safe and have a great day.
All right, take a short break. We're trying to get him back. We're going to take a short break.
Oh, God.
We'll be right back.
AC, then this car not working.
Check Ryanair. Ryanair is ranked among the best in TNT for auto air conditioning service. They specialize in repairing and servicing all makes and models of vehicles and heavy equipment. They also stock a wide range of parts. Give them a call at 640-5828 or visit them at number 41 Cane Farm Road, Tacarigua, or email ryanairac@gmail.com. For prompt and efficient service, look no further than Ryanair. When you say TNT's construction boss, then there's only one company.
All right, we're back. We do apologize. Thank you for your patience, folks. We do have Dr. Lakram Buddha back with us. These things do happen. The reason why I think the whole issue of politics came up, because any information coming out of the current wage negotiations for doctors, there's not much information coming out due to the sensitivity of the negotiations. Are we seeing things playing out where during the heights of the pandemic, there were some doctors who were for and some who were against the way things were being managed? Are those doctors who stood up and said that's not the way it should be done, are they now being penalized?
Well, I can't, I don't want to say anything definite on that. I would hate to think that that is the case. I would like to believe that in the area of healthcare, when you're dealing with professionals, that any government, would treat professionals based on merit. So I would hate to think that that is the case, and I would want to leave it. I would want to leave it at that for the time being.
On the issue of medical fraud, I mean, here it is, you have doctors, and I mean, you just confirmed there are those who are unemployed, those who are getting short contracts, but then you have doctors, and this was an issue that was raised sometime in the middle of this year, when it was Venezuelan migrants are performing duties, medical duties here, as medical practitioners without the necessary clearance from the council and the authorities. Has this been something that has been nipped in the bud?
Well, I believe from my own discussions with members of the medical council that that matter is being taken very seriously. And I believe that all steps, I'm told, I'm reliably informed that all steps are being taken to protect the public. Of course, the role of the Medical Council of the Medical Board is to ensure that the public is protected from this sort of fraudulent practice. But by and large, I believe that might be a minority. But of course, even one practitioner who is not qualified is one too many. But I am given the assurance that that issue has been dealt with, at that level.
And although negotiations, of course, are ongoing, there would be issues that stand out most of all. And one of the things I mentioned was security for female doctors. I mean, we know the crime situation in the country. They're working long hours. When they do come out, of course, from the institution, medical institutions, there's no one there to escort them to their vehicles. And there has been reports of an uptick in crime, especially in parking lots and what have you. Has this been something at the front, at least addressed while negotiations are taking place?
Well, it's a big issue, and I want to extend it further, Mikey. It is not only an issue for female doctors, but I believe it's an issue for all doctors and perhaps all staff. Keep in mind that nurses as well, do onerous shifts and so on. So the whole issue of security is something that I believe needs to be strengthened at the level of the hospitals. I mean, we had that frightening scenario just a few months ago of the Port of Spain hospital, where criminals were able to come into the casualty itself and finish, whatever they were attempting to do outside of the hospital. So I think the security at all of our nation's health institutions need to be reviewed and revamped. And of course, for those who are working and coming off shift at long hours, the car parks especially need to be properly lit. And security needs to be beefed up. In my time as at the head of the SWRH, we also had the internal security, the in-house security, and their job, of course, was to ensure, that doctors and nurses, were safe when they came to work or they left the job, at those hours. So I honestly feel that a lot more could be done with regards to protecting the doctors and nurses. And of course, the female doctors. But now all of us, everybody's at risk, Mikey. So I have to extend it to protect.
I understand clearly. You're right. The times have changed, of course. And the issue of long hours. I mean, how are medical practitioners able to perform if it is that they're out there for all of these hours? I mean, here it is. We know that there are doctors that quote short-term contracts. Those that are unemployed. Can't we get them on board to help these doctors who have to work these long hours?
Well, as time has progressed, I must say that the conditions would have improved a bit from when I started to practice in the public sector some 40 years ago to what obtains now. So in terms of the junior doctors in the hospitals, the hours are regulated and so on. But I think one of the issues where we could do better is in the primary care sector, where you don't have enough doctors to see the patients. And these are the clinics and so on, where we deal with the diabetes and the high blood pressure, what we call the NCDs. And I think some of the doctors who are unemployed could be employed and allocated to make the job of the doctors in the health sector so they can spend more time. You'll have more doctors, they can spend more time with patients, and that problem can be addressed in that way.
I agree with you. And again, I hope it's not a situation where some people are just being picked out and being marginalized because they didn't follow whatever directions or as the case may be. But again, poor working conditions. I mean, do doctors have space where they can go to rest and what have you? Are the facilities equipped or up to standard where these working conditions are suitable?
Well, what I can say, I can speak again about the San Fernando Teaching Hospital. For a long time, we had the old San Fernando General Hospital, which was commissioned back in 1954, 55, thereabouts. At that time, there was a doctor's lounge, which really was, a sort of rundown facility. But in the construction of the San Fernando Teaching Hospital, a conscious and deliberate effort was made to provide proper quarters for doctors, those who are on call and who are required to be resident in the hospital whilst on call. I'm not sure about the status of this accommodation as we speak, but I hope that would have been maintained. And I say that in light of the fact that I have reliable information which has come to me saying that the whole issue of maintenance of that new teaching hospital at San Fernando is an issue in terms of even infrastructure, the lifts, the toilets, and so on. Someone has pointed out to me that, two of the panels fell off the wall and so on. So there are a lot of issues, of course, and that will all come back to the conditions under which the doctors have to work.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trusting and hoping that the new hospitals which were constructed at Point Fortin and Arima, and the one that is being constructed at Sandy Grande, which is being commissioned at Sandy Grande, will have proper facilities for doctors.
Yeah, because
But before I leave that, I can tell you for sure that at the Mount Hope Women's Hospital, where doctors, that is where pregnant women and so on are taken care of, and doctors have to be resident on call. I'm told that the facilities for doctors there really is in a poor state. So that is something that needs to be looked into urgently by those in charge of the NCRHA, because that hospital will fall under the North Central Regional Health Authority.
Yeah, and I really hope that we can get that message across, because I know that many doctors and many, of course, nurses and what have you working in these conditions are not going to be the best people to perhaps interact with patients at all times. And they need to get these things done. I mean, I don't think they are high-hanging fruits. They are things that can be done immediately to basically put things back in. But again, it seems that politics is raising its head and so forth. Now, when issues come about, because you did raise an issue during the budget debate about the blood products at the San Fernando General Hospital that was affected by outage at a lab, what's the update on that?
Well, I believe that steps are being taken to correct that problem. But you see, it speaks to a greater problem, and one that is pervasive under this current government in terms of, the lack of what I call preventative maintenance. Now, some of these, for example, the generators and so on that came into question and broke down in this particular problem would have been things that required maintenance over a period of time. And for some reason, the RHA seems to find money to do other things as opposed to what is important. I just want to give an example. So, for example, you would have full page ads, and the public needs to take note of this because this is taxpayers' dollars being spent. There are full page ads quite often, especially by the NCRHA, saying that they've done so and so. So they're spending money to publish on the papers what they're being paid to do, what is their job. So I'm saying that some of that money could be spent elsewhere. So it's a question of priority that needs to be looked at. And maintenance, we spoke about the 3 Ps, and we said that the plant, which includes the infrastructure, of course, is a very critical aspect, for the people, which is the doctors and nurses and other healthcare staff to be able to work in.
And what about the calls for amendments to the Medical Board Act?
In terms of
well, I know the doctors have been calling on these changes to take place and to implement many new things, and hopefully that can take place sometime in the near future.
Yeah, well, I think there's an ongoing. Yeah, I recall that discussion. So there's an ongoing debate where the Medical Board of Trinidad and Tobago is taking its responsibility of protecting, covering that the doctors who are granted license to practice, remain qualified, remain up to date with their knowledge and so on. So there's something called CPD, which is continuous medical professional development, and I think the board is taking steps to ensure that the doctors do certain things in terms of refresher courses and so on. So I think that's a step in the right direction. It's new to our medical culture. It's well known abroad in the UK and the USA and so on, and I think that it's something that is coming on board. There's also the issue of certifying who are the specialists and what they're qualified to do and so on. And I think that is being dealt with.
Let me ask you, do you believe that this administration shares that vision to implement many of these programs that could, of course, ease a lot of the stress on the doctors and bring about a more efficient service?
Yeah, well, the thing about it is that the medical board of Trinidad and Tobago, created by an act of parliament, is supposed to be an independent body. We don't want to go into the discussion of how independent bodies are now being treated in Trinidad and Tobago. That's that's a whole new discussion there. But so far, I have to say that the medical board has been able to maintain, to a large extent, its autonomy in terms of making some of these decisions, and I trust that that will continue, under this current regime.
Let me ask you, your constituency, based on your report that came, your press release, businesses in Faizabad are currently facing difficult economic times and an upsurge in criminal activity. And this comes, of course, on the heels of the murder of a Syrian businessman, Muat Nassar, early yesterday morning while conducting sales in his food outlet in Faizabad. I believe he was a gyro, one of these gyro vendors. And give us an idea, because we're hearing it from all over, not just in the East-West corridor, but the issue of extortion, the issue of people having to change and make alterations to their times when they close up shop and what have you. Give us an idea. And again, this has been happening quite some time over across the country.
Yeah, well, I first of all, I just want to use this opportunity to express my condolences to the family of Mr. Nassar. Although Mr. Nassar was not a resident or constituent of Faizabad, he has in fact been conducting business in Faizabad in the community for the past 4 years. So what happened was very unfortunate, of him being murdered. Luckily, his son, who was there with him, tending to the business, his life was spared. I spoke with the owner of the property, because it was Mr. Nassar had rented the property to do his business, and he indicated that just a few months ago, this very business, the customers were robbed at the business, and of course we've had a few other murders in Faizabad, during the past few months and so on. Now the problem here, of course, is that when these things happen, it means that business is impacted. It means that, customers are afraid to come out because of the safety issues. And, business is very important in Faizabad. Mikey, when Petrotrin was shut down in 2018, a lot of the economic activity that, that revolved around the operation of Petrotrin and so on, brought business and income and, economic stability to Faizabad. So since 2018, that has been a major issue. And of course, any factor that affects the business community is a big problem. And crime, of course, is one of the issues. In fact, just on Saturday evening, I had the privilege of attending the Faizabad Chamber of Commerce Christmas event, and one of the fears expressed by the executive of that business chamber was the impact of crime on business in Faizabad, and that was the weekend. That was just a couple of days before this incident took place. So yes, it is a major issue, and the issue really has to do with the resourcing of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service in Faizabad. I mean, as we speak, there's an issue with resources. The Faizabad police station is in a state of disrepair. It really needs, proper facelift. And at the best of times, there's one vehicle available. So the patrols that need to be done on a more frequent basis, are not being done. And really due to no fault of the officers, who are, by and large, very, very hardworking at that.
And give us the issue. I know recently there was some flooding there that affected many of the residents. How is that? How are you coping with that?
So thankfully, this flooding was not as bad as it was in 2018, 2019. But we did have, on Saturday, I would have had to visit about 100 or so residents who were affected in various parts of the constituency. But the problem is that once there's flooding in the Pinal, Debe, and the La Fortune area, that flood water has to come down to drain into the Gulf of Paria, right at the side, the cremation site where that river comes into the Gulf of Paria. So there's always the risk of flooding. Again, over the years, I would have reached out to the authorities in terms of creating what we call detention ponds to slow down the water coming to the Gulf. But of course, nothing has been done in this regard. But thankfully, destruction to property was not as great. Some residents did, of course, lose some property and so on. But because they've learned to expect this problem now, they would have taken some precautions. So we are grateful and thankful for that on this occasion.
I know things are not easy. Any closing comments? Go right ahead.
Well, I just want to say that it has become very difficult for the constituents of Faizabad. In fact, it has become very difficult for all of us. In Tobago, I think the pervasive is the crime. I mean, there's, of course, in the health sector, which I shadow as opposition member of parliament, there are many, many issues that we would not have had the time to go into this evening. And, at the end of 9 years of this current government, Mikey, I am of the opinion that it's going to be very difficult for this current government to turn things around. Having not been able to do that in the past 9 years. So, I'm sure I share the opinion and views of, a great number of people in this population who think that, that they hope for 2025, to take us out of this, would be some new form of governance on the horizon. And of course, I speak here now as a UNC member of parliament, and I just want to say to the population that, we are able, willing, and prepared, to bring Trinidad back to where it rightfully belongs.
All right. I want to thank you so much for taking time out this evening and shedding some light on the issues. Again, best of luck to you and your entire team, and we'll be speaking to you, of course, sometime in the near future. Thank you so much, Dr. Bodo.
Thank you very much.
There you go, folks. That is the Faizabad MP, Dr. Lakram Bodo, and quite interesting. When you're on the outside looking in, there's always this perception that doctors make, a lot of money and what have you. But our doctors here are basically suffering. That's the fact. He mentioned and confirmed to you that many are unemployed and many have been given short contracts, and as well as the working conditions and the fact that they're still working on 2013 salary with no allowances for the very same period, security, and the list goes on and on. And it always makes you wonder if this administration is workers friendly. Do they understand that people, of course, are working, but the cost of living has gone up? And it seems so disconnected. When we come back, we'll talk more about that, of course, when we talk to the SWWTU President General, Michael Aniset, to give an update on what's taking place with the Port of Port-of-Spain workers. We'll be right back.
The Excel brand delivers quality service.
I would recommend Omega Excel to everyone.
Take care of yourself, take care of your health with Omega Excel.
If Omega Excel works for me, it will work for you.
Over a period of time, I started feeling stronger in my knees where I could add more pressure.
Oh gosh, this place hot. And the AC, then this car not working.
Check Ryan Air. Ryan Air is ranked among the best in TNT for auto air conditioning service. They specialize in repairing and servicing all makes and models of vehicles and heavy equipment. They also stock a wide range of parts. Give them a call at 640-5828 or visit them at number 41 Cane Farm Road, Tacarigua, or email ryanairac@gmail.com. For prompt and efficient service, look no further than Ryan Air. When you say TNT's construction boss, then there's only one company, Lacroix Construction Services Limited, specializing in general construction, industrial maintenance, manpower resources, transportation and lifting, and equipment rental, excavators, bulldozers, dump trucks, lighting systems, and everything for your project. We have affordable prices. Call now 267-0000 or 431-0012. Lacroix Construction Services Limited, TNT's construction boss. For all top quality and affordable hardware supplies, no one beats Midland Hardware, located number 97 Eastern Main Road, Arouca. Midland stocks the #1 brands in hand tools, garden tools, water tanks, power washers, generators, water pumps, kitchen and bathroom faucets, along with face basins and toilet sets, blocks, lumber, steel, sand, gravel, and topsoil. Also check out Midland for steel windows and assorted designs of metal curtain rods. Everything for home and business projects. Payments via links, credit cards, online payments, or cash on delivery. WhatsApp 327-7761 or call 646-2144. Open every day from 8 a.m. From foundation to finish, it's all at Mitlin.
And we are back. Thank you so much, Master Control. And just to let the folks know, Vitamin XL D3 provides the most natural and absorbable form of vitamin D, which promotes whole body health, which is crucial for cellular health, especially regarding the cells of the immune system. Every cell in your body needs vitamin D3 to function properly. So please, pick up your bottle of Vitamin XL D3 today. Joining us is a man who is no stranger to the Observer. Let me say a pleasant good evening to SWWTU President General Michael Annison. Good evening, sir, and welcome back.
Well, excuse me, good evening to you and the listening public.
Yes, indeed.
Blessings always from the Most High and our ancestors as we
indeed.
navigate this turbulent waters that we are in.
I know, it's not easy. Rudinath Indar Singh, who is the Shadow Labour Minister, the UNC Shadow Labour Minister, of course, in his press release today, mentioned, due to the court ruling, he described it as high-handed, undemocratic, and an attempt to deflect from the real source of failure. He described the move by the Port Authority of Port of Spain to seek an injunction from the industrial court against the workers at the Port of Port of Spain wrong. And one would think that they would rather, instead of honoring the 12%, here it is, it seems as workers are being forced to pick back up their tools and get back to work. Give us an update, please, comrade.
Well, as I speak to you, one has to understand that the system that we living in, where there are protections on institutions that were designed not for the democratization of democracy, but to protect certain people within our society. And we at the SWWTU and dock workers, we are not fazed by what happened. We expected it to happen because we understood that this failure to implement the agreement was a direct decision taken by this present government. And they use all kinds of subterfuge in order to divert the attention away from the general public and the ordinary working class. What were the true issues? And they attempt to make it appear that the workers were holding Trinidad and Tobago to ransom, and we always wait until Christmas to take our actions, and not conveying the true story in that this issue started long before this year, but in 2024 there was a wrap-up of the discontentment. We would have written to the Port Authority management expressing the need to finish and close the agreement, which doesn't only speak to 12%, and that is what the business community would want to make it appear, but which speaks about revolutionizing the port into a productive and competitive commercial entity. And that would have benefited Trinidad and Tobago because the efficiencies that would have derived from the agreement that we made with the Port Authority, who came to the union to support the transition and transformation and commercialization of the port. And let me repeat it, it's the port management came to the union. It wasn't a normal proposal for collective bargaining. It was a proposal for interest-based negotiations. And therefore, when the management cried out to the union about the issues facing the port and the requirement for us to put ourselves on sound economic footing, the union responded readily and in the interest of Trinidad and Tobago. And here we are today when we are being made the boys where poison arrows have been flying at dock workers left, right, and center. But as I continue to say, comrades and the listening public, I hope my comrades from the trade union movement and the dock workers are listening. There is even life after death. Let me repeat it. There is even life after death. And if you understand the rhythms and the vibrations and the energy systems and the cosmos energy, you'll begin to understand that nothing happens before its time. And what is right will always remain right, and always remember. They said, let there be light. And there was light. And what it tells us, that there was darkness before light. So every dark moment will produce light. And I will reassure the general public and dock workers that our light will prevail. We will respect the industrial court ruling because it's an institution, and we believe in respecting institution and not using the institution like we have seen for people's own whims and fancies, and to marginalize and undermine dock workers in their struggle for dignity and respect and decent
comrade,
wages.
Let me interject here, comrade. What's interesting here is that the Works and Transport Minister, Mr. Rohan Sinanan, he described the court's decision as a victory for Trinidad and Tobago, emphasizing the importance of resuming operations at the port. One has to ask then, at what cost? At the cost of destroying the morale of workers, at the cost of having workers work for wages that is not on par with the expenses and the cost of living that is taking place. I mean, as much as you have to abide by this ruling, one simply can't say that it's a victory if in fact that the workers themselves, the people who are doing the work, are not getting what is due to them.
Well, comrade, you are so correct, because the PNM do not see workers as important to them. And I'm not surprised at all by the minister's statement. And the question that I will want to ask him, when you say victory for Trinidad and Tobago, is it that the port workers are not living in Trinidad and Tobago? Is it that the port workers don't have families? And if you take the amount of port workers and you multiply by 4 or 5, you're going to see the volumes of people who would be affected by working on a 2014 salary in 2024. But that is not the issue. The issue is that there was an agreement that the Port Authority management brought to the union. Let me repeat it for the general public to understand. It was not normal negotiations. It was an interest-based negotiations where the interest of the port, the survival of the port, the profitability of the port, the efficiency and the competitiveness of the port was the paramount ingredient that is rooted in that agreement that we signed. The wage proposal of 12% was only one component of a total agreement that would have seen the transformation of the port that this government and past governments have been talking about. But this government do not want that. They want to downgrade the port. They have not invested in the port in any meaningful way so that they could sell it to their friends, their business partners, and the international conglomerates which they deal with at the detriment of Trinidad and Tobago. But we will prevail because, as I say, the truth always prevails eventually. So, Mr. Sinanan, take a ride, beat your chest, right? Telling people that they have to take the 2%. You know, we are your minions. And you all continue to talk down to workers. You all continue to demonstrate a dislike for the workers. But you come and hug us up when it's the time to stain our fingers. But I will tell you, dock workers have a long, long memory. And as we say in the Seamen's Union, you bury a hatchet, but you mark your spot. I will say no more on that aspect.
And I think, comrade, that, you know, anyone who is looking on would have said, listen, this is something that could have been dealt with as far as dialogue. Dialogue was not forthcoming. Nobody wanted to, they didn't want to honor the 12%. Okay, so workers said, listen, I need to send you a strong message that we are not going to stand for this. We were promised something and we expect you to honor it. Now that the tools have been done, the stakeholders who are making their input is basically basing it on their own business. It seems as though the component, the engine room, the people who are making the utmost sacrifice, who was supposed to receive something and didn't get it, for some reason does not exist in this equation whatsoever. It is about the business, it is about Christmas, it is about the season, it is about containers, everything else but the workers themselves who need to get what is justly due to them. Why?
No, but you see, when you run that kind of narrative, you're playing right into the hands of the business community. Yes, the wages is important. It's an important component. And no one can deny that during that period, right, that wage increases were hovering around the 12%. But having said that, are you aware, and I will demonstrate how this government thinks, that in 2024, the senior management of the port have not received wage increases from since 2010. Yes, Trinidad and Tobago. And let me go a little further. The NIB collective agreement that was signed off and was registered in the industrial court, and the board and management send out circulars on behalf of the workers, saying when they was going to pay the back pay, the Minister of Finance issued instructions to the board, interfering with the collective bargaining process like he is doing right now on the Minister of Works and Transport in the port negotiating process, and stop the payment. And the union now has to go to the industrial court to fight a case, have to pay money, but the government don't have to pay money because they use the taxpayers' money in order to fight their cases and give the cases to their friends, right, in high-end places, lawyers. Is that fair? The minister interfered with the due process, right? And then what was the issue? Because it was always the intention of this government to downgrade government employees and state enterprises employees, and where they have control over, to depress it. That 2% over a 3-year period and another 2% over a 3-year, which is 4% over a 6-year period, which works out to be 4 cents. Yes, Trinidad and Tobago, that is the proposal. The government is telling their employees who falls under their remit that you are only worth 4 cents on your dollar for a 6-year period. And you ask yourself, is that colonialism in a new form, shape, excuse me, and fashion that is happening? And that is what is taking place in this country, and nobody wants to talk about that. The business community do not care about that, but I will warn them that the very same dock workers, or NIB, or postal workers, or and Tech workers, or any worker in Trinidad and Tobago that you want to marginalize on the altar of your profits. You're going to live to regret it too. Because if you do not have an economy and a workforce that is properly paid decent wages and living wages, the economy eventually suffers. Go and look at some malls where places are closing down. And the Duma president, if dock workers don't have money to come and buy your cloth, it will stand up. So then, economic is about people. Economic is about a balance. It's like a scale. And it cannot be, and it must not be, that is only in the interest of the business community that we look at and we marginalize. You know, the dock workers and all other members of the working class. That is not good for our society, and I put them on warning today. Be careful of that road that you are walking. The government, you cannot, in all conscience, tell me that there are workers still, whether it's management or not, they are all workers who haven't received a wage increase from since 2010, and you don't care about that as a government. What kind of humanity, what kind of godliness, what kind of virtuousness is this in our country? And we want to talk about crime and other social ills.
And let me ask you this, comrade. Take us back to before this government came into the administration. Did they show any signs whatsoever that they were not going to be workers friendly? Was it a different narrative?
No, you remember when they were in opposition? Don't forget clause 34. They hold hands with the labor movement. Don't forget the accord with OWTO and other partners, and I have a copy of it where Roger signed and the then opposition leader, Dr. Keith Rowley, signed. Don't forget they had the NTAC committee, but each time we go as a union to make proposals on behalf of the union, it was shut down. It was always do as I say or else, and we walked away from that committee because that committee would have raised all those standing negotiations, and we raised the 12% on behalf of dock workers. That is how far back that this issue has been engaging the attention of this government. And Trinidad and Tobago, dock workers, all the workers in Trinidad and Tobago, members of the working class, the poor, the voiceless, the disadvantaged community, ask the government how can they justify their behavior in the context of attempting to push down workers' throat a 4% over a 6-year period on the basis of take it or leave it, and then let the court decide. You understand? And we have to pay attention to those kinds of things. Dock workers, as I speak to you, they are living salary to salary because they are required to live on 2014 salaries, where all the taxes that has been raised, all the rental, the mortgage cost for houses, even government houses, which is subsidized, has gone up. You have to start at $500,000. All right, and that is a fact. Cars has gone up, the price of cars. And if you want to bring it in for yourself, there is some onerous taxes that is placed on you. Everything is being done to stultify the growth of the ordinary citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And I will continue to speak truth to power. You could go to court, we couldn't go to court, but the workers will always stand up for what we believe in and what we know is right. We will continue. You wouldn't muzzle us. If you believe, well, as I'm one of your newspapers, the friendly newspapers say, right, the union and dockers was hauled before the court. Like if we are some criminals for standing up for our rights, and rather than sit down and engage us in discussion, you use the arm. of the state machinery to believe that you're tying our hands behind our backs. You may tie our hands, but we have our voices, which is energy, our voices, which is a force, our voice, which would have said, let there be light, and there was light, and they would understand what I am saying in due time and in due course.
Yeah, what's painful too, comrade, is that when you look at all that's being reported, and the fact that there are people out here who are working, who simply is saying, listen, I haven't been given a raise. I mean, cost of living has gone up. My salary simply cannot go the distance it used to go financially. And compounded with the fact that the total refined products imported from December 1st, 2018 to the 30th of June, 2024 by Paria exceeds that of US $7 billion. Now, this money didn't go to the Children's Life Fund. This money didn't go to housing or employment or to assist the deport workers or any of the workers who are out there crying for the government to acknowledge the fact that they are working on salaries that are totally outdated. What was the situation yesterday? Give us an idea before we close off. When you had to look into the eyes of these port workers and say, listen, the court has made the decision and we just simply have to abide by it.
Well, let me tell you, I got strength, I got energy, I got vibrations from the port workers because they were strong, they were committed, they were resolute, and they show a level of resilience that I haven't seen on the port for a little while. And it tells me something, because their consciousness, right, what we call God consciousness, has arisen in most of them, if not all. And then therefore, they didn't see this as a failure. They saw it as a victory, and they begin to understand how this government is against them. Because this is a government decision. This is Mr. Imbert, notwithstanding the management representation to him in 2018 and 19, showing him the benefit of implementing the agreement, how it will transform and transition the port into international best practice port. He did not care about that. So when you hear them talking about productivity and the efficiencies of Trinidad and Tobago, and more importantly, the port, tell them blow away, because all that is just a charade, because your intention is to sell certain assets of Trinidad and Tobago, and the port is one of those assets, and you will do anything. And finally, ask this government, when last they invested in the port in the context of developing the port to make it competitive, and to make it productive. Ask them if we have dredging that will reflect the kinds of vessels that are being built in the world trade now. We haven't done anything to reflect that. Jamaica and other places would have done that, but no, in Trinidad. No, we talk the talk, we talk less, but we walk right. And people's eyes are going to open. And let me tell dock workers, nothing happens before it's time. And I want to thank you all for being strong. I want to thank the women who came out. All right, and then this way they could charge us for industrial relations offenses. That is their rights. And I wouldn't talk and say who is the lawyer that represents them and what law firm that they belong to, because there is a cycle and there's a Boy Scouts association that is operating in this society where only a few people benefit, and the income gap is getting wider, the wage gap is getting wider, and the household gap is getting wider, which is a frightening social phenomena that we must tame, and we must take a stand in the interest of our children.
Thank you, comrade. As always, very insightful. And again, we're in solidarity with you and the workers. Wish you all the best. I know they're going back out there, but I know the morale.
No, but they are strong, comrade.
Good.
Comrade, they are strong and more educated. And they feel stronger because, you see, you have to understand darkness to understand light. You have to know pain to understand joy. You have to know sorrow to understand joy. Because this is the world. Because this world that makes darkness also make light. And we are all part of this cosmos world. And therefore, we have to embrace the good times. And we have to embrace the bad times. All right?
Thank you, comrade.
And then this world going to end up in a way where you cannot fool the universe. Mr. Imbert and Mr. Sididon, right? You cannot fool the universe. And the chairman of the board is unfortunate. It's unfortunate that you allow yourself to get tied up in a web, right? That doesn't speak well to the workers that on the port, and you are the chairman of the port. But as I said, the dock workers in Port of Spain and in Point Jesus, they are all my children. And in my house, we do not have bastard children of first class and second class. We have equity and equality, and that is what we are demanding for dock workers.
Thank you so much again, comrade, for taking time out. Best of luck to you and the entire
Yes,
team.
okay,
Stay
yes,
strong.
yes, no, this is not luck. This is a commitment to a cause that we believe in our inner God that will guide us and our ancestors.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our program. Last night we were looking at messaging, so Tuesday is going to be an open forum. That's right. We're looking back at many of the issues, and you say, please, what should be the messaging moving forward? I mean, we're hearing so much about all of these negotiations that are taking place, how workers are being treated, still on old salaries, not up to par with cost of living. That salary can't stretch any further. Christmas is right there, and I mean, it's been 9 years. So what should the messaging be moving forward? Should be on crime, infrastructure. What should that be? So Tuesday, open forum right here on The Observer. Please join us. Folks, remember, we're observing, but action has started, and liberty should be around the corner. Have a good one. Be safe.